So it's 8:30 on the morning of the hottest day of the year, and Chris and I have come outside to do some early morning gardening, and there is a common toad in our compost heap. I'm so excited because I've never seen a common toad in all my nearly 25 years of life. So yeah, let me show you some pictures and we'll chat a bit about them. Toads are different to frogs in that their skin is wartier and drier. They've also got shorter legs, so they don't hop as much as kind of walk. We think this one is a female because she's quite big and fat, so females in toads are generally quite a bit larger than the males. We found her in the compost heap, and that's what they do. They spend most of the day buried underground, out of the heat, out of the sun, and then in the evening they'll come out and hunt for bugs, so slugs, snails, worms, anything they can get their hands on. So toads have a pair of glands on the back of their head called parotoid glands. You can see them just here behind her eyes. Oh, she's on the move, she's on the move. These glands are poisonous, and they'll excrete a kind of poison if the toad feels threatened. So it tastes bad for frogs and toads, and also it can actually be fatal to some animals, so it's a really good defense mechanism. Toads might look a bit old and crusty, and that is because they are. So for a tiny little animal like a toad that's maybe only a few inches long, they can live in captivity up to 40 years. And if you find one in the wild, I think the oldest one that's been found is 15 years old, but that's still super, super old for such a small animal. So yeah, older, wiser, and wrinklier. Toads also spend a lot less time in the water than frogs. They're terrestrial. So if you find one on a woodland walk or kind of in the countryside somewhere, don't immediately think, oh no, I must pick it up and return it to a pond, because it's probably pretty happy where it is. So we're hoping, we've had our pond now for a few months, but we're hoping that next spring the toads that we found here will be laying their spawn in this pond. Now, toad spawn and frog spawn is really easy to tell apart. Frog spawn is kind of blobby, so a huge globular mass of jelly blobs, whereas toad spawn is in strings. So it's really interesting, long ribbon strings of jelly with the little black dots inside that are going to turn into tadpoles. So fingers crossed we get some of that in our pond next spring. Started making our garden, we made the vow to go organic and not use any kind of chemicals or pesticides that might harm wildlife, and that is really important for toads. So because they eat slugs and snails and creatures that might feed on slug pellets or other poisons that you put out there, the poisons gradually build up the food chain, and so it's really important, if you want to help wildlife like toads and other garden creatures, that you don't use pesticides or really strong fertilizers in your garden. Toads will hibernate over the winter, so they'll burrow underground or perhaps into sort of disused rabbit burrow, that kind of thing. Burrow under the soil, keep nice and cool and calm for the winter months. So here's our compost heap in the garden, which is perfect habitat for toads. You can see we've got evidence of slugs and snails and spider webs and all sorts of yummy things that toads will really enjoy. So something that you can do to protect toads in your garden is just be careful when you're digging over your compost heap. Don't fork and dig it too vigorously before checking that you've got toads in there. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this quick little video about toads, and there is one final thing that you can do to help toads in your garden, and that is create a home for them. So grab yourself a flower pot, sink it into the ground so that the soil comes up halfway, and you've created a wonderful, wonderful home for all kinds of small garden wildlife. Frogs, toads, newts, small mammals, they'll all love to take refuge in here over those cold winter months. You could even fill it with some dry leaves or bits of grass to make it even cozier, and I'm sure they will love it. Again, thank you so much for watching. I'm really happy to have you here. Please do subscribe to Quest for Nectar on Instagram and also here on YouTube, because there'll be lots of wonderful wildlife videos coming soon, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye!